Welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast, where our mission is to encourage, equip, and empower every woman on her faith journey with Jesus Christ. Today, we are honored to hear from pastors, parents, and speakers Joe and Jen Anderson as they have a conversation with our podcast host, Mykelti Bloom. Joe is also the founder of Surrender Ministries. In this episode, Joe and Jen share their testimonies, Joe on overcoming addiction and Jen about a difficult time in their marriage and how they reunited after years of separation. Their story involves twists and turns, surrender, and forgiveness. This podcast episode is a real and honest conversation about what it means to truly give everything to Jesus and how he can redeem our lives. I hope you enjoy this podcast.
Well, Joe and Jen, thank you guys so much for joining the podcast. It's honestly always an honor when anybody is able to come and just share their story and just speak about what God is doing in their life. And I mean, your story is just it's wild. I think that's the best word to use for it. And I was telling you beforehand, like I couldn't put it down when I was reading it. And I loved that Rob Kennerling did the foreword, I believe. Yes. And he even said, like, it's true. Everything happened. Like you have to like hear it over and over again. Like it's true. But I just am excited to just talk to you guys and hear your story and just hear how God has just used your story to help so many people and to bless so many people. So it's super exciting to have you here today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Well, we'll do kind of an intro at the beginning, but I would love for you guys just to take a minute to intro yourselves. Who are you? It's fun for me to have both of you here. It's always fun to see couples try to remember the same story and be like, that's not correct. Actually, it happened this way.
She's my fact checker.
I was the fact checker in the book writing.
She read the manuscript, okay.
No, it was very detailed. I could not believe how much you could remember through all of that. It was crazy. But go ahead, introduce yourselves. What are you up to these days? Who is Joe and Jen?
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Okay, I'm Jen Anderson. Joe and I have been married for almost 28 years. So wife, mother of 4. And my oldest daughter is 21. She has special needs. So that is a huge piece of my life. And I'm very passionate about adults with special needs or kids with special needs. And then we have a 20-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 14-year-old. And I love dogs. So I have 2 little golden doodles, and I love them so much. I love any dog. So yeah, so this life alone just keeps me busy, and I love it. It's a very good life. So
it does keep you busy.
Yeah, and I'm Joe, husband to Jen. Jen just got credentialed as a minister just this last district.
Congratulations.
So she's Pastor Jen, Reverend Jen.
I joke and say, call me Rev Jen.
Yeah.
Rev Jen.
Yeah, so that's been fun. And it's, and so we started Surrender Ministries back in 2010 and did that full time for 2 years, and then was the lead pastor at Summit Church in St. Paul for 8 years. And then went down to Florida, had some crazy things happen, moved back, and just over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, we moved back to Minnesota. And during that time, God just clearly spoke to us to move back to Minnesota, to write a book, and to travel and preach again. So that's what we do full time now is go around, sell our book, and preach at churches and events and recovery groups and where any place they'll have us.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about speaking at churches? Is it just being able to share your story to help people? Is it like the conversations afterwards? What drives you to do that?
So, okay, that's something new that I've realized with the book, because I love the act of presenting in front of a crowd, especially when it's going well.
Yes.
I like that. I enjoy that greatly. But what I love even more would be the immediately after the service, when there's something that I've shared that God has used to have it really resonate with a person, where they've had like an emotional response or the light switched on, or somebody who was invited to church for the very first time, it just felt like it resonated with them. Like, this is exactly what I needed to hear, and to be able to get that feedback.
Yeah.
And so what the new thing about that has been, since we have the book available after, when we're selling the book in the lobby, I'll be off to the side at a table for people who want their books signed. And what I found from that is I get to have one-on-one conversations with way more people. Maybe it's, after you're done preaching, if you're at the altar as a pastor, as a preacher, you really only have time to talk to maybe 3 to 5 people. And it kind of gets locked in, and there might be other people and they're not as aware that there's others behind them. Well, at a book table, people feel the line behind them. So it moves along. So I get to have more one-on-one conversations with people and a greater number of people, which I love. I love that. I love just being able to meet people, hear their story, connect with them, pray with them, and see the results of kind of the fruits of our labor.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'd say the same. Obviously, I'm not usually the ones preaching, but talking to people afterwards and hearing their stories. And there's always like 2 or 3 people from every church or venue that we're at that kind of keep in touch with and just hear their stories and hear what they're up to, how it changed their life. And then you always hope your story, your testimony can impact someone. So
Yeah. Do you feel like people that come up to you are more on, I don't want to jump the gun here, and obviously we'll get into the story that you have, but do you think the people that come up and talk with you are the ones that might be on the other side of Joe's testimony, where they're the ones that have been walking with someone who has been struggling? Do you find that you get that piece a lot?
Often. Yeah. They're in the middle of it. They're in the middle of their hard stuff. And so they're glad to be there, be encouraged, and have hope. And that's what the goal and our hope is that they have hope. Yeah. So that's usually always the case. Yeah. Most often. Yeah.
Well, I love that you both get to bring both of that, you know, as you're doing this ministry together. I think that's really special that you can do that. So let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Do you want to just, I know that's so hard to even summarize. Like, how would one even summarize this? But what is your journey? What made you decide to write this book?
Yeah. So, just kind of to bullet point it, we got married October 26, 1996. And from that moment on, our life has been a roller coaster of things happening. My father and her dad got shot on our wedding night. We separated for after that, 6 months after we got married.
For 2 years and 10 months.
Well, yeah, 5 months after we got married, I got credentialed as a minister. A month later, I lost my credentials due to my alcoholism. We separated, and we were apart for almost 3 years. Like, everyone had given up on us in our marriage. I got sober, went to treatment. Then our marriage was restored. Then I got restored to ministry. Then we went through miscarriages. Then we went through adoptions. Then just a whole slew, a child with special needs. And then we had a failed adoption that was super traumatic and unusual and wackadoodle crazy scenario. And then like a near fatal car accident. And so like during all that time, right from the very beginning, after our marriage got back together, people were like, you guys need to write a book. You need to share your story. And I did. I mean, back in 2010 to 2012, I traveled and shared our story of our marriage and restoration and all that. And anytime we would think about writing a book, it was like something else would happen. So my answer to people when they'd say, you should write a book, I'm like, I will as soon as things slow down, as soon as the last chapter is done.
As soon as I stop having material that I have to write about.
And so it was very clear after my car accident, when I was laid up, I was in a wheelchair, where it was like God spoke and said, like, you've got time now. It's time to write your book. And so I think that kind of brings us up to speed of why we wrote the book and how we got to this point.
Yeah. Any thoughts you want to share on that too?
Oh, no, with him, and we were in the thick of it with kids, and everything was busy, up until that point. We had made a DVD, like a surrender DVD, like kind of talking about things that we had gone through, but we did not have time to write a book. But things slowed down once he got into a car accident and had that time of healing. And it was the time to write a book, no doubt. So,
well, I'd love to focus on the part first about alcohol and treatment, because that seemed to be the biggest tension point for you guys in your marriage. And that the first big thing was what happened on the wedding, for sure. But can you just kind of outline that journey for you?
Yeah. So I'm third generation Assemblies of God on both sides of my parents, grandparents, everything. So I was raised where alcohol was not accepted, wasn't tolerated, wasn't in the home, and grew up at Bloomington Assembly of Church, Cedar Valley Church in Bloomington, and went all through high school and didn't drink, didn't party, was very involved in the youth group. And it was after high school, before I went to North Central, because I had a call in my life to be a minister, that I had this kind of like almost a prodigal son moment where I was like longing for that far and distant land. Like, I wonder if I missed out on something, I want to experiment a little bit and see what this is going to be like. So I started drinking with just a couple of friends, and it like did something for me. And that's, people talk about the alcoholic personality. There's even some DNA that would show that someone's maybe predisposed and all of that. But whatever that was, it clicked for me, unlike I saw for the friends that were around me. And I kept it very quiet. I kept it hidden. And I would go to church like I had my entire life and felt like, wow, I didn't get struck by lightning. Nobody knows. I'm able to keep this a secret. And so I would do that a couple times a month. And anytime I did drink, because I was keeping it secreted, there was no social drinking for me. It was all binge drinking. Like, if I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink. And that, of course, added to just the alcoholism and how, there was shame. It was done in secret. It was done to excess right from the jump. And then after a year or so of that, I kept telling myself, I got to stop. I got to clean myself up. I'm going to go to North Central now. And I really thought, like, okay, when I get to North Central to study to be a minister, my addictions are just going to fall off me when I walk in the doors, And when I went there, the desire and the tentacles of addiction were still on me. And even though I met Jen right away, like the week, a couple of days before the school year even started, and we began to date, I still would go out behind my roommate's back, behind her back, and I would drink periodically. I just couldn't shake it. I could not shake it. And then I got into that pattern of, I'm going to quit next month. I'm going to quit next semester. I'm going to quit my sophomore year. I'm going to quit my junior year. I'm going to quit on New Year's. I'm going to quit on Monday. And those dates would come and go. And then there's more of that snowball effect of all this time that I've been lying to people, hiding, and most importantly, lying to myself and to God about this. But I also want to make clear with that, because sometimes people can look at alcoholism or addiction and look at the individual like, why would they do that? Why would they try and pull the wool over everyone's eyes and lie and do that? Well, there's really no satisfaction for the alcoholic or the addict to do these things behind someone's back. There's so much shame and guilt. And it's a terrifying experience to be like, I'd had a pretty good life, a pretty, like, I guess you could call it like successful life. There weren't many things that I didn't feel like I couldn't accomplish or take. Kind of felt like I had the world by the tail. And then all of a sudden I have this thing where it's like, I can't stop. Like, I can't. I cannot stop. And that is terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's a very lonely feeling, especially when it's already being done in the dark. There's a saying that mold grows best in the darkness. And so I wasn't being open and honest with anyone. I was suffering in silence. I was isolating. I was doing this. So that accelerated my addiction. But I still had this feeling that, like, I'll quit. Because I could go a week or two without drinking. And that's called white knuckling it. It would be like just holding your breath underwater until you can't hold it anymore. And then, and so the new deadline I'd given myself was our wedding date. It's like, well, now I'm getting married. I'm getting credentialed. Everything's going to change because I obviously can't be married and drinking like I have been. And so the summer before our wedding, she was in Michigan with her family getting ready for our wedding ceremony because we were going to get married there. And I was back here in the Twin Cities. And I just was like drinking as much as I could to get out of my system, sow my wild oats, be done with it. It's insanity when I think of it now. But then the way our marriage started with the trauma of her dad being shot, that set us up where I wasn't going to be able to hide it very long in our marriage. And so that's where 6 months in, it all fell apart.
Because you come home, you're clearly going through major trauma and I'm sure the battle, I think you spoke to it, of like, I want to be with my family, the guilt of I can't be with my family right now. I have to be here. Things aren't right between us. You have all these dreams and expectations of what new married life is going to be like, and it all goes out the door.
Right.
And then, if I'm remembering correctly, then you find out about what's going on, right? Or did you tell her?
Well, the way it happened, so when her dad got shot, something snapped in her. Like she just she wasn't all there. And I mean that with with
It's the
compassion.
dissociation.
But it was.
Yes.
It was. I mean,
a
there
social
was,
worker over here.
yeah, I mean, this was 96, so the term post-traumatic stress didn't even exist. And even people's response to trauma was like, are you not over it yet? It was just kind of, but like she was not the same person. It was really weird. And even, and so that, obviously just the disappointment of we're married and now we're going through this, and there was no honeymoon period, to look back on. And so we come back to Minnesota and she's desperate to be with her family and they're desperate to have us back there.
Right.
And that created a lot of turmoil between us because I'm thinking, what did I get myself into? And I don't want to move to Michigan. And they all want us to. And I feel like she's not going to be happy unless we do. And it felt like there was some sabotage going on with our marriage and just like all of this. At the same time, I obviously wasn't handling it well. And I did the very thing that I said I wouldn't ever do, is I would go out and drink behind her back. And she was like so checked out that I could kind of pull it off without her noticing.
Yeah. I was definitely in deep depression and shock. I had lost even a lot of memory about my wedding. Like I actually do not remember my wedding day at all. So maybe I could visit that and through therapies and all that. But I lost a lot. I was so much shock and so much trauma. And I didn't know he was I had no idea what he was doing. I know he got a lot of car washes. I was like, oh, he's getting another car wash. We shared a car, but I was checked out. I wasn't a real peach to live with because I had a lot of anger. I was very, very depressed. And I was very angry towards the person who shot my dad. And I was also very fearful. Like I didn't know who it was, but I was angry at them. So that anger came out sideways towards Joe and it was just ugly. It was really messy. And but I did not know that he was drinking. I had no idea. But I don't know that I even cared at that time. So, I wasn't looking for anything either.
Yeah. And then I was in the Air Force, the Air National Guard, and I went away for a weekend of training and got drunk with the guys at the end of the weekend. There was like a barbecue party and ended up going to a strip club with the group. And I remember I just got credentialed as a minister. These guys knew me. It's like a sports team, like where you know each other really, really well. And so they saw a side of me they didn't think existed. And they're like, whoa, we got the preacher drunk, And I had so much shame over that. And that day when I got home, she found a can of chewing tobacco in my jacket and confronted me about it. And I was so tired of our fighting and I was so filled with like self-loathing and shame and that I was just like, I'm not even going to lie. And I just said, I've been drinking behind your back. I went to a strip club this weekend and I don't know what else I said. She slapped me and said,
I'm out of here.
Like basically I'm out of here. Like after all she'd been going through, wanted to be with her parents. She's in Minnesota. And it was just like, that was it.
Yeah.
And it actually felt like kind of a relief to me. One, to just be honest for once. And two, to just the tension that we felt in our apartment. Oh man, there's not, I mean, marriage is the most amazing thing in the world, or it can be the worst thing in the world. A good marriage versus a bad marriage. And so
I think it's hard too, because we were going to church and acting like everything was okay around everyone because miraculously my dad lived. So we were supposed to be so happy about that, and our mind, we perceived that we should be happy and, the miracle, but we were not okay. And so behind closed doors, we were not okay. In front of other people, I don't think that they had any idea. I don't know.
No, I was doing an internship at River Valley Church, like just ever since the church started. And my hope was to go on staff there. And so it was like, hey, we can't be the couple that's having problems. That was what the lie we were telling ourselves.
Because I'm on staff.
Right.
We're like, I'm interning.
Or just,
I'm part
I don't
of this.
Just all the lies of the enemy and even just our own pride, I guess, and I just got credentialed and it was all this. And so once I told her what I'd been doing, I knew like, it's over. Like now, not only is my marriage probably going to be over, I've got to turn in my credentials. I mean, I could have worked through a process, but at that point I was just like, I think I'm done. And it was supposed to be like a 2-week separation.
Yeah, we had worked with talking to our pastor, and that's what we agreed upon. Like, let's just take a cooling off period for a couple weeks. That turned into 2 years and 10 months.
Yeah. And so I took that when she moved back to Michigan. For me, it was like, I'm not going to get the help that's being offered to me. I felt so much shame and guilt and embarrassment that, and also I think mixed with that, if I'd felt like there was hope of me being sober, it would have been easier to accept help. But at that point, I was kind of convinced I can't quit.
Because you had tried. I tried. Like, I tried everything. We say, I've tried everything.
And I prayed for God to zap me.
Well, and under better circumstances, too, you tried. So under bad circumstances.
For years, I'd prayed like, God zap me. 3, 2, 1, do it now. Hit me with the lightning, make it go away. And that's a scary thing when you're like, why isn't God I'm asking him to remove this from me, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
And so my hope level or trust level that I was going to ever be sober was very low. So it's like, why play games and put myself through the torture of, okay, hey, Joe, did you stay sober today? No, I didn't. I didn't want to do that. And so I went my own way, which was a path of addiction and depression and suicidal thoughts every morning that I woke up, and moved in with some friends. And it was basically like a little fraternity house. I mean, we drank every night, sat in a hot tub, watched Jerry Springer on TV from a hot tub, getting drunk and just living a dumb life. And that did not lead to good places for me over that time of our separation. So I went to places spiritually that I wouldn't have even conceived of being possible. That's what sin will do to you. That's what shame will do. That's what the deception of the enemy will take you to. Yeah. So there wasn't a whole lot of joy in what I was doing. It was just like every day it was just self-medicate, go to work, try and get through another day, and rinse and repeat.
You said something that I think a lot of people feel, if not a lot, maybe everybody, of like, God, why aren't you just like taking this? And I'm wondering if for both of you, because I'm sure you're in Michigan, like, why is this my life right now? Okay. And they feel that I've been so faithful. Like, I'm doing your work. I'm in ministry. I'm getting credentialed. I'm interning in a church. Like, why is this happening to me? And that all of a sudden can switch to a little bit of offense. Like, why, God? And we get a little bit offended. Is that something that either of you guys experienced? And how did you, I know it's jumping forward, but like, how did you break out of that feeling?
Yeah, I absolutely was self-loathing, traumatized, angry. And a lot of it, look, I really did live for the Lord my entire life. And then I'm like, I go to Bible college, I meet this guy, and he ends up being an alcoholic. And then my dad gets shot. Like, that's my takeaway for a long time. And I had a lot of anger and resentment towards the Lord. I mean, I would go to church and, but it took a long time for me to really surrender my heart and allow healing to start. And I'm glad I did eventually. It did take a while I was there. I mean, otherwise, even the thought of us even trying to get back together while both of us were so broken was impossible. It wouldn't have it would have been just tumultuous. It would have been horrible. So yeah, I did, but it was a slow process of just, I was really open and honest with the Lord. I'm like, I'm so angry. We're just like, I'm a verbal processor out loud, in the car or whatever, talking to the Lord. And he met me where I was. It was hard. And and it was strange because we were apart for so long. So I really wasn't concentrating on him so much. I think initially I was. But then after that was more about just myself and healing. I'm like, I got to get better. I am not okay. Like, I'd never been depressed in my life as a teenager or any time in my life. And I was dark. It was a hard place to be. So, it went from being really angry, and it wasn't an overnight thing or at the altar one-time thing for me. It was a process for sure.
Yeah. And to that your question of being offended with God or having offense towards God, I definitely had that. And that was why I didn't stop believing in God, because I didn't want to stop believing in him because I wanted to keep being angry at him. And if I stopped believing in him, I couldn't be angry at him. And it was a feeling of like, look, God, I grew up in the church and I felt called to the ministry, and I've dedicated my life, and I started drinking a little bit like everyone else, like so many other people do. And then why did I become an alcoholic? And then why did, of course, at this time, I'm still like mad and resentful towards Jen. Like, why did I marry someone who could be so mean to me? And her dad gets shot on our wedding night. And, I was totally playing the victim in my mind. And some of those, and that's the problem, is that some of those were things I brought on myself. And other of those things were things completely out of our control. Yeah. And that's where it can get all mixed in together and really feel like, God, you didn't give us a chance. Like, why are you torturing me? Why am I being punished? And even right now, here I am, I can't stop drinking. And yeah, there is a feeling of like, where are you, God? What's even the point? And when I look back on that, I realize it was never a lack of God's power or of his faithfulness or of his love and his care. And I even see his hand in my life during that time. I really do. And it was a lack of my surrender. Because asking God to zap us, just make like when I would pray that, it was such a prideful prayer. It was like, God, I have these bad consequences from something that I'm keeping a secret and I'm lying to people about and even lying to myself about, and I just want you to make it all go away. And I'm so glad that he didn't. Now on 25 years on the other side of it, because I've learned so much having to stay surrendered in my recovery that I would have missed out on. And just even being introspective and looking at things in my life, it's still a process, even all these years later, that I'm thankful for. Because if he would have, and there are some people who they'll say, I was an alcoholic, I was a drug addict, and I prayed and I was just miraculously delivered. I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. That's fantastic. I'm thankful that didn't happen to me. As strange as that sounds, because the daily grind of having to surrender and know, like, if I don't do this, I'm not going to make it. And at night, looking at the clock, waiting for the minutes to pass until I knew the liquor store closed. And then I could take a breath. And trusting God with those minutes is something I would never trade because it created such a dependency and a reliance on him, of him carrying me through that time, that I think if he had just miraculously delivered me of all that, I would have gone off, I would have been prideful. I would have just moved on to something else or forgotten about him. And so I'm thankful for that, that really the surrender piece of trusting God truly is that. It's saying, God, I'll do whatever it takes to follow you. And even though that's going to be uncomfortable, it might be embarrassing, it's going to be inconvenient, it's going to be costly, and it's going to require a lot of humility. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's a process, it's a daily decision to surrender to him. I'm
grateful you said that, because I think oftentimes, and sometimes this might be confusion from what we hear from preachers and pastors of, you just have to surrender. It isn't a one-time thing.
Right.
So what does it look like to actively surrender multiple times, even daily? Like, what does that look like for someone to do that? Does it ever end? Do you ever have to be done? Like, what's the mindset that someone might need to have in that?
Yeah, I think it's almost synonymous with being a disciple. If you want to be Christ's follower, take up your cross daily and follow Jesus. Die to yourself. Yep. All of that language that Jesus uses, that take on his yoke, that's it's easy, he says, and his burden is light, but it's take on the yoke and be a follower of Jesus. And that's surrendering to him. He's the master. And probably the best analogy I could give, and I think I shared this in the book, I'm pretty sure, is after I broke my back and major damage to my spine, and foot was dislocated, ribs were broken, neck was broken. I was a mess. I was in a wheelchair. My surgeon told me, because I had 4 metal bars with 24 screws up my spine and a metal plate in my neck and all this, and was in really, really rough shape. And my surgeon told me, he said, here's the deal. That metal in your back is not healing you. It's a scaffolding for your body to do the healing work. He goes, I just put those pieces in, and he goes, the body is an amazing creation that heals on its own. He goes, but you need to participate in this. And I was very motivated at that time because I knew how close I was to dying or being paralyzed. And he said, your full-time job now is to not fall, not have an accident, because you've got 1 year for those bones to calcify. He goes, it's like a 12-month process.
Jeez.
And he said, your job is to walk. And at first it's going to maybe just be a couple steps. And then it's going to be more. He goes, but the more you can walk, and that will let your body heal. And I looked at what was the perfect diet, the perfect amount of sleep. I've never been so dialed in with my health. Like every supplement that I could take, I knew I had to keep my weight down because for a long time I was in a wheelchair and I just wanted to like sit and eat food, you know?
I marveled at his discipline and all.
I mean, I've never been so dialed in for like that year. And because I knew and in building muscle, like the nerve damage. And so I use that as a parallel. It was embarrassing for me and took all my mental energy at first to just take a couple of steps. And it was almost, it was frustrating. Like, is this all I can do? And for that day, that was all I could do. And there's a feeling almost like, what's the point? Should I just give up? But then every day that you do that, you're able to walk a little bit more. You're getting stronger. I started going to the gym, and my brother-in-law would be there to make sure no one bumped into me because I'd kind of wobble around and I'd pick up 2-pound weights, which is like embarrassing for a guy to hold 2-pound dumbbells in their hand and stand in front of the mirror and barely be able to do any reps. I'd be sweating. Just like, oh, okay. Well, that's all surrender. Like I use that as almost an example of that when we're surrendered to Jesus, he's saying, follow me, follow my word, be obedient. And for like a new believer or someone who's walking in surrender, that can feel like, well, where's the excitement in that? But it builds over time as discipleship. And then we get stronger. We're flexing our spiritual muscles as we grow. And after 1 year of doing that physically, I became really strong. Like it was almost, you couldn't tell that I had that injuries. And I think the same thing in my recovery, it was like, get up every day and surrender and go to bed every day and surrender. And that doesn't mean just to sit back and like, if I'd said, okay, my doctor did this, I'm going to lay on the couch, I surrender, like, no,
it's action steps.
Absolutely. Surrender is not passivity and just like, whatever it will be, God, it's up to you. He's already given us a plan. We don't need to sit and say, I'm surrendering, God, what should I do next? Well, we have his word. We kind of already know what he's asking us to do, it's following him and working on discipling ourselves and finding a mentor and doing the hard things and being committed to a church and to a small group and being accountable and admitting when we're wrong and knowing it's not going to be just a smooth process up and to the right. We're going to make mistakes. And we got it. We're going to have setbacks. That's surrender. And that really, James 4 said, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves before the Lord and he will lift you up. To me, that's a life verse, James 4:10, that when we do humble ourselves before the Lord daily, we're surrendered to him, he will lift us up. His promises absolutely are true.
Our annual summer gathering, the Garden Coffee, is coming up soon. Women and girls of all ages, you're invited to join us on Saturday, July 6th at 10:30 a.m. at Lake Geneva Christian Center in Alexandria, Minnesota. This is a free missional event where we will worship together, hear from a Minnesota global worker, experience a surprise interactive element during the program, and have the opportunity to invest into missions. Invite the women in your family or church community to join us. There's no RSVP required. Visit mnbtg.org/thousand sisters. That's mnbtg.org/1000 sisters for more information. We can't wait to see you there.
Yeah. That sounds so good. What do you think about surrender, Jen? What is that?
Oh, wow. That's hard. That's hard. I think he summed it up, but it's true. I mean, because we're just talking about everything that we've gone through in our lives and how, and not as in a prideful way or a flex way, like the maturity that's happened in us spiritually, because we're like, this isn't our first rodeo. Sometimes you kind of revert to an immature response to things. I do, offense or something. You're like, oh my word, I can't believe. But then you kind of go back to what he's done in your life and how things worked out before and what needs to happen. It's like, no, I want to surrender right away. And that could be with an offensive thought or invasive, intrusive thought. It's saying, no, I'm not going there. and I give it to you, Lord. And it could be a million times a day to be exaggerate, but it's just how it's a constant, and you do grow. And as you grow in him and go through things in the Lord, and you allow him to work in your life instead of trying to do it all yourself, you do grow in maturity with that, because you have all those steps that you've built on before. So, yeah.
That's good. And I mean, along with surrendering to God, we're also called to surrender to our spouses in a lot of ways. Not surrender to like sovereignty, but to submit and to respect and to honor. And so everyone probably is thinking, okay, they're not together. Well, how are they so great talking on a microphone right now together? So what happened in that time, Jen? Maybe you want to start of what gave you that space to be like, you know what, I do want to move forward in this. I do, with everything he's going through. Like, what did that process look like?
Well, there were some steps before. Maybe you want to speak to you going to treatment first, because he did go to treatment. So it wasn't like we were going to get to, we're moving forward and getting back together when things were just so ugly and bad. And you went to treatment 2 years into, or a year and a half into our separation.
Yeah. So I have to say this is that, Jen very easily could have gone and filed for a divorce right after we separated, and nobody would have questioned that.
But we're both stubborn, so let's.
Well, no, but I'm just saying that I was a raging alcoholic, and she was back in Michigan, and she very easily could have been done with it, and I don't think many people would have questioned that. And so her tenacity and stubbornness and desire and hope that things could be better was very real, and just kind of. And, there were a couple times that I thought about filing for a divorce, but I was like, I guess I was never really sober enough to take the time to go and want to do that. And it was painful. There was a mix of emotions going on.
Were you guys talking at all during this?
We would on and
sometimes,
off.
Yeah.
And there was always a talk of like.
Well, and I was a flight attendant during that time, so I would see him. I didn't know he was an alcoholic. It was never said. He never said like, I'm an alcoholic. I did see him drink over our separation, and I saw him a few times when I would be in Minneapolis. We would get together once in a while, but it was very clear to me he was struggling with alcohol.
Yeah, and it was such an unusual situation because so much of our trauma revolved around her dad's shooting. So it was like people who didn't know our story, they were like, well, you guys just need to think back to how it was when you first got married. I'm like, well, her dad got shot on our wedding night, so that's not. So there was, and we also had this, I think, this sense of destiny in our life too, that God was doing something here. Like, how could our marriage possibly end this way? I think we had that sense. And once I finally came to a point where I went to treatment, and I went to Hazelden Treatment Facility because I didn't want to go to Teen Challenge. I didn't want to go to any Christian place because I'd given up on God helping me. And I really thought Hazelden, like celebrities go there, people from all over the world, it's the best in the world. They're going to medically fix me. Like I really did. I thought like they're gonna give me a pill, maybe shock therapy. Yeah. Like I don't know. They have doctors. They're gonna fix me. And when I got there, I was clueless what 12 steps were and AA and like the recovery process. And when they started describing it to me and they showed me the 12 steps, I'm like, oh no, that's right out of the Bible.
Like, oh gosh.
Like admit that you're powerless to a higher. I'm like, oh, I know what verses they're. And they have like morning meditation and then a speak. It was like camp. It really. I was like, I grew. This is like Lake Geneva, and it scared me. And it was as if God pulled the rug out from underneath me that first day, where it's like, there's no hope apart from Jesus. And it was April 17th, 1999, the first day I was at treatment. I got on my knees and I really surrendered to Jesus. And growing up in a Christian home and growing up going to church, there can always be that little bit of feeling of self-righteousness, that I'd always grown up with. Like, well, we're a Christian family and I go to church. And but this is the first time in my life where I was like, there is nothing good in me. I can't point to anything. Like, our righteousness is that of filthy rags, but I mean, I was just filthy rags. Like there was nothing. So I was like, God, it's all on you. It's all in your grace, because there's nothing I can point to. I'm a mess. And that was a great gift that he'd given me, because I really experienced his grace, having to completely lean on Christ alone. And like I said, I wasn't zapped. I had the cravings. I had to work through the process. Super thankful for the tools and the community and the accountability and what I learned during that. Got out of treatment. started a recovery group at our church, went to AA multiple times a week. And it was a rough first year. I never relapsed, but it was, again, daily. I had to make a lot of decisions, lost a lot of friendships that I'd had before, just a whole new way of life. And one of the things they told me in treatment, that many people there advised me, they said, you should really get a divorce right when you get out of treatment because we think your wife is going to trigger you to drink again. And after the trauma you've been through. So I had that hanging over my head. Like, what if we get back together and that causes me to drink again? I don't know if I have another recovery in me. I really don't. And so that was scary. And it was a year later. Jen was tenacious because we would talk about getting back together. I'd always struggled with commitment. And when we were talking like, well, maybe we shouldn't. And she just all of us, I'll let you tell that.
No, I just said, well, and I was a flight attendant then, so I could transfer to Minneapolis. I said, okay, well, then I'm moving out there and you can move in with me or not.
What was the switch for you?
It was a stubbornness. It was a hope. There wasn't like this butterfly love in me for him. We didn't have that for sure. Either of us. I don't think we had that. There's still like trauma and things to work through and hard. But I think I cared deeply for him, and I knew that he was sober now. And that was encouraging and hopeful for me. So I don't know. I would have to say it was the Lord, and I working through me and giving me that just stubbornness to be like, I'm doing it and we'll just see what happens. Cause I couldn't go forward. And we're different this way where I'm like, I like to make a decision and then stick with it and go. And whether if it's a bad or a good decision, I'm kind of like, let's just try. And so
how are we different in that? You make a decision and follow through. What does that mean?
No. I'm just kidding. This is good. It's a good balance in us, and that you can wait and be like, procrastinate a little bit more. And I'm more like, no, let's just do it. So,
I find the decisions are more fluid.
I'm more concrete with them. So I just thought, you know what? I'm not filing for divorce, so I need to move forward in my life. I'm getting older. Things are, I'm doing better. He's doing better. So let's just see where this goes.
Yeah.
And so then he I don't want to say reluctantly, but maybe.
No, I had love and care for Jen. I really did. And I wanted our marriage to work, but I was fearful. I was afraid of myself in some respects. I was afraid of it was so bad. I mean, our marriage was so bad during that time that it's hard to and during a separation, like the person who you loved the most in the world, to marry them now becomes like your greatest enemy in the world.
Yeah.
So it kind of felt weird, and you can demonize another person, and they almost exaggerate and talk to friends and we're separated. My wife, she, and so you kind of take that and like, okay, well, which one am I going to get when we get back together, and which one is she going to get and me? And so we didn't go to any counseling. We just moved back in together, and it worked because we were both surrendered to Christ.
Yeah.
And God truly breathed life back into our marriage, a marriage that was all but dead. And
we went to church, and we went to, and it was funny. I was a flight attendant still. He was working a lot in a corporate world. And one of the pastors at our church came up to us and said, you guys are going to lead a small group for young marrieds. And we're like, no, we're not. And he's like, yeah, it's already scheduled. It's going to be at your house every other Friday. And I don't know that I would recommend that for every pastor to put that on somebody, but I think he knew we needed that to have that commitment in that community. And that was the best thing that could have happened to us, for sure. I mean, we're still close with these people, and we needed that. We needed that community for sure, and accountability, and just friendship. So it wasn't just showing up once a week and leaving right away after church, which was maybe our plan. I don't know, but we were. Yeah. So that was a good start. And we moved into a condo, and we didn't have a TV. We had a card table. We didn't have anything really to our name. But so we just had fun.
Yeah.
And just went for walks, and there wasn't a lot of distraction. So
how did that healing process really begin? And forgiveness, because forgiveness is tricky, because you can say, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm going to forgive. But then all of a sudden they do something wrong again. You're like, and you're just like you are. It comes back. That bitterness comes back. So what did it look like for you both to actively forgive yourselves for the part you played in the tension of the marriage and all those pieces, but then also to forgive each other and move forward in this healthy marriage?
It's a good question. I think I can speak for myself. I think I had already forgiven like the person who had shot my dad, forgiven myself for things, and I had forgiven Joe. So I wasn't looking for things. I don't think that I was looking for hope and good at that point.
Yeah, and I think that when you're dealing with alcoholism and addiction, that's such a mood altering thing or personality altering that I truly was a different person.
Yeah.
I really was, now that I was sober and walking a sober life. So there was that, just even how I reacted to things. And Jen was she was back to herself too. I felt like the girl that I'd loved and wanted to marry was back. You know, that period of time right after our wedding is like a whole different person. So that made a huge difference. And one of the things that I talk to people about when it comes to forgiveness is I think counseling can be very, very helpful, but I also think it can be destructive because when you go to a counselor and you use them as a judge and jury to make your points about how the other person is wrong, you can walk out of counseling worse off than you went in.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of using them as like the audience.
I've heard that from so many people.
Oh, and so
so many people.
And so we didn't go to counseling during that time, and we also didn't sit down and try to rehash everything.
No, we knew that wouldn't work.
And so it was truly like we've hit the reset button. We're both walking in forgiveness. We know we need to keep Jesus at the center of our lives, of our marriage, and we need to follow him, and we need to support each other and not bring up the past and not fixate on that, but look to the future. And it worked. I mean, it really did. And I think it's so simple. It's not always easy.
Right.
But
it does take two people.
That's exactly right.
Setting up to do that, being surrendered to Christ and walking in obedience. If the other person is not, then, it can't happen. It can't work. But it definitely was both of us making that decision.
That's good. That's good. I was so into that, I forgot where my train of thought went to go next because that was so great. But I think, when you're talking about, you've said it a few times, the shame aspect. And I think I'm thinking of the people who listen to this, and it doesn't have to be addiction, doesn't have to, alcoholism, anything like that. But the enemy just loves to use shame as a way to keep all of our issues, the things that we're working through, what we consider, our flaws, our secret sin in the dark, because he knows if it comes to light, when we have community, that's when we move forward. That's when healing begins and that shame is eliminated. So I just would love for you to encourage the people listening that are dealing with shame, that the secret sin, the thing that they're like, I can't bring this to the light because it'll destroy my marriage. It'll destroy my kids. It'll destroy my career, my job, anything like that. And just speak encouragement into them on that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest components to shame that a lot of people don't think about, it's pride. Because somewhere, even though we don't consciously think that when we're feeling shame, especially for a believer, somewhere within us, we think, I should have done better. I'm not living up to what I should be. I'm not earning my salvation. You may not think that, but there can be that guilt. And of course, the enemy just fuels that. Yeah. And I think that when you really stop and you just think about Jesus paid the price completely. There's nothing I can do to add to that or take away from it. And that's a scary thought because we almost feel like we're letting ourselves off the hook. Like when you think of grace, like grace is grace. Yeah. It's unmerited favor. You didn't do anything to deserve that, even now in your sin, even now in that shame. And so when you really say, wow, I am forgiven, immediately that voice will creep up and say, yeah, but you should know better and you've asked for forgiveness before. You got to start at that point and say, I am completely forgiven. Jesus paid the price. What he did on the cross was more than enough for me. There's nothing I can do to add or take away from that. And when you experience that grace, like Paul talks about that, do we use that as a license to go on and sin more and say, well, I've got grace, so I can go do this again? Right. I think the exact opposite happens. When we really receive Christ's grace and embrace it, it will cause us to say, you know what? Because of his grace, I want to go get accountability. I want to go tell someone about this because I don't want to keep doing these things as an offense to the cross, and it's not to heap more shame on myself, but I want to walk in this freedom that he's given me. And so for anyone who's listening, know that you have not gone too far. You've not sinned so much that you can't clean yourself up. It's not about get it all figured out, get yourself cleaned up, and then join a group. Sometimes we do that,
Right.
I mean, I lived under the lie of like, I got to cut back on my drinking before I go to treatment, or I'm going to have a rough go. And it's like they told me when I called the treatment center, and I got a space there, and they said, okay, you can check in on Saturday. This was like on a Tuesday, and the lady said, whatever you do, don't stop drinking. I'm like, what? And she goes, well, alcohol is one of the most dangerous drugs to come off of yourself, and you can die if you try to quit on your own. And she's like, be safe. She goes, but keep drinking right up till when you get there. And I'm like, so I can show up drunk? She's like, yeah, it's treatment. I'm like, that's what I do best.
Like, wow, this is.
But I mean, there's that thought that we have, like, I'll start going to church. I'll go back to church once I get this figured out, or once we get our marriage together, because I don't want to go to church while we're fighting. Well, that's exactly where you should be, and that just to continue to focus in on like what do you really know about grace, and that you would like intellectually say about it, because a lot of people listening, I think they could write out a definition of that, but do you really receive that for yourself? And that at the heart of that is pride. Because you're kind of saying God's grace isn't enough for me. I should do better. Me, I. Forget about that. It's all about Jesus. Receive his grace. Know that you're forgiven. Know that he hasn't given up on you. Know that he still loves you and that he will continue to give grace. And our part is to follow him. And when you step out in that grace, and I think that part of surrender is saying, you know what? I might need to go away to treatment. I'm going to talk to my pastor, and whatever my pastor says, just like I went when I said to my surgeon, what do I need to do to be able to walk? I didn't argue with him. I didn't say, well, I think I'm going to try this other plan. I'm like, you're the expert. Tell me, and I'm going to do it. Go to your pastor, go to your mentor, go to the spiritual authority in your life and ask them, like, what do you think about this? And if they say, hey, I think you'd benefit from going to Teen Challenge, don't fight it. Don't say, well, I don't want to go there. I'm not like those people. Yeah, you are probably, and it's a good thing. It could be the best thing you've ever had happen in your life, even just because it's an act of surrender and humility to follow through with that.
So good. I mean, that's such a good way to end this. I think that's just such a powerful last encouragement. But, Jen, is there anything else that you want to add to any of this as we're closing out today? Any encouragement?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, Joe said it so well, but humble yourself before the Lord, and he will lift you up. He will, he's our hope. He will do what we can't do. I've tried so many times to do things on my own strength, and even early on in our marriage, trying to like, you will love me, or we will make this work. Like if I have enough willpower and I feel like I have all this willpower, it doesn't work like that. God is so good. And when we give it to him, he redeems our messes. He really, truly does. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And I'd say that, one of the things that I think people maybe assume or think about us wrongly is because we've been through so many things that somehow has given us an ability to deal with pain on a different level. And it does in one respect, but it doesn't in another. Like if I stub my toe in the middle of the night, I feel like the world is ending. And I cry out, why God, why would you let that, Sure. So just because you've been through a lot, and it's in that moment, Jesus said, I think we all need to remember this. And I think if a pastor said this, they'd say, well, that's a real negative anti-faith thing to say. But Jesus said, in this world, you will have trouble.
Yeah.
Well, did he speak a curse over us by saying that? Or is he just stating a fact? He's saying in this world, you're going to have trouble. Yeah. But the next part is what really matters. But take heart, because I have overcome the world. And so anyone who's listening, you're going through a difficulty, and not every situation is the same, and not every situation has the same outcome. And we don't have the secret formula of do this, and then your husband's going to come back and all that. In this world, you have trouble, but take heart, because Jesus has overcome the world, and he will give you everything you need in your situation. Trust him, be obedient to him, surrender to him, and follow him with all of your heart. And have no expectations that the outcome is going to be a particular way.
Right.
Trust him and follow him. he'll overcome the world.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen. That's so good. Has been such an honor to have you guys on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, it's just always, like I said at the beginning, just such a privilege to be able to hear people's stories and the hard parts of the stories, because it encourages those that are walking in it that they're not alone and that they're seen and have that like me too effect. And so I just so appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you.
And how can people get connected with you, get a copy of this book and hear you speak?
So we wrote a book this past year, which I'm like super hard on myself with things that I do. Like I'm always like, and I'm very, very pleased with how this turned out. Like it's really conversational. It tells all the stories that we've had in our life. There's a lot in there. It's an easy read. It really points people to Christ. So I'd encourage you. It's The Tension of Redemption. It's on Amazon. If you just do Joe Anderson, The Tension of Redemption, that is available. You can also get it through our website, where there's information on there to contact us for speaking, mysurrender.org, mysurrender.org. And then at Surrender Joe on Instagram. You can get a hold of me there as well. But travel, I'll speak anywhere, and get our book.
Yeah. It's a great book. I can speak from reading it, and we'll make sure to link to everything in our show notes too.
Yeah.
But thank you guys again.
Thanks so much.
So much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Bridging the Gap podcast. We were honored to hear from Joe and Jen Anderson on a story of tension, surrender, and redemption. You can learn more about Surrender Ministries and get a copy of Joe's book, The Tension of Redemption, at mysurrender.org. That's mysurrender.org. You can also search for The Tension of Redemption on Amazon. You can follow Joe on Instagram at Surrender Joe. You can also learn more about Bridging the Gap at mnbtg.org by downloading the Bridging the Gap app through your App Store and by following MNBTG on social media. We also want to invite you to take a moment to rate and review this podcast to help others find this resource as well. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to being with you next time on the Bridging the Gap podcast.